Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we are at our first BE Novice at Cirencester Park. Ruff is ready for his dressage, we're all ready to rock and roll, hopefully I remember it. Very nervous for today, obviously not expecting much. We'd just like to complete all three phases of today and return happy and sound and uninjured, to be honest. The going's quite turned up today, got studs in all 4 feet, and yeah, hoping that the weather's going to brighten up because it's a bit cold. Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Here Ruffian and I are competing in our first novice at Cirencester Park. Right, so coming down the centre line, Ruffian and I tried to keep really straight and of course remember which way to turn when you get to C. We scored a 33.5 for this dressage test, which I was really pleased with since there were lots of new movements that both Ruff and I haven't really done before, like the medium trots and the counter canter. But coming into our 3-loop Serpentine, which was our first real movement of the test, I felt Ruff was quite tense throughout the whole test, but I think that was because I was tense. And then again here in this corner, preparing for our first medium trot, and I was really just hoping he wasn't going to break into canter. But for our first attempt, I was really pleased, and then at C, I prepare him for our first canter, which I was a smidge too early, and he came above the bridle because it was just a bit rushed and a bit tense. But at B is a 20-metre circle showing some medium canter strides, which I thought on a horse Ruff size quite difficult to show a variation between medium canter and working canter, but we scored a 7. Onto our half 10/12 metre circle, back to the track at B for some counter canter. Ruffian on his right reining canter is a lot more stiff and finds it harder for the counter canter, but he didn't break into trot and he didn't change his leg, which was really good. And then our halt was far from perfect, and so was our rein back, but again I was just really pleased he had a go at it and attempted it. But I must say throughout the test I was constantly thinking to myself that here needs improving, I can improve and get better marks on this movement. But for our halt we scored a 5 and our rein back we got a 6.5, and all of our walking work we got a 6. And riding Ruffian, he feels like he is stretching quite a lot in his neck for the free walk on a long rein, but that's why it's so useful getting someone to film my dressage test, because looking back he actually could have stretched a lot more, hence the 6. And then transition to trot at A was quite smooth, and then again straight into our 3-loop Serpentine, which we scored a 7 for. Again, just trying to ride as accurate as possible, riding to all the markers correctly. And just here I remember taking a breath and trying to relax, just preparing myself for, again, a second medium trot so he wouldn't break into canter. And the test actually just says to show some strides of medium trot across the diagonal, which I think he did very well there. And then preparing him for the canter transition at A, which was a lot smoother than our first one. And then again onto our 20-metre circle, showing some medium canter, which I just find really hard on a horse his size in only a 20/40 arena, and then having to collect and balance him for a half 10/12 metre circle back to the track at B, and again really hoping he wasn't going to change a leg. And I do remember sort of tensing up, and therefore here you can see he tensed up coming down to the downwards transition. But then finally up the centre line, and I was so relieved that the test was nearly finished, preparing him for his halt, which was a bit crooked, but very pleased with him. We just finished the dressage. I remembered it, which is the main thing. Lots and lots to improve on, like our halt was far from perfect, and our rein back, and the canter transitions obviously need a lot of work on. But I'm really glad he did the medium trot, and he had a really good crack at the counter canter, which we haven't done much of, so I'm really impressed overall. On to the show jumping. So we're just heading over to our show jumping now, with plenty of time to warm up. The course is quite a friendly course, but it's built to size. There's some really meaty, boxy oxes, but I'm hoping to just keep cool, calm, collected, and just get round so we can get onto the cross country. Right, so here is our show jumping round. Ruffian warmed up very excitable, which I actually quite like before our round. It just shows me that he's ready to rock and roll. Jumping fence 2 and fence 3 really nicely and getting a good stride to fence 3. I really liked how the course rode. It really suited Ruffian as it was a nice big space, so it gave me plenty of time to turn because he's not the best at turning, but he did that one stride to double really well, and here you can see he's not the easiest to turn to fence 5, but he pops that no problems. Fence 6 I thought was probably one of the biggest oxes on course, but he jumps that right out of stride and then getting a nice forward 4 to a very upright of planks, which I was a bit nervous for, but we jumped that really nicely. And then coming to our first treble combination that we've ever done at a show, and sadly he just gets that second part down because I think I just rode in too bold and I sat down too heavy after the first part of the combination, but didn't let that stop us, and jumping the last, really scopy. Very pleased. So just on my show jumping, I'm really proud of him. He jumped really super. He found the height quite easy. Really annoying about that second part of the treble, but that was just, I think I sat down too soon and pushed for the one stride where I should have just waited and balanced him. So he just clipped that with his back foot, but he jumped super, and I'm glad that's out the way now. I hate show jumping so much. But it was definitely a course up to height, but he jumped it really well, and onto the cross country. Onto the fun bit, the cross country. Ruffian was really jumping his socks off for me. He just flew round really. I was so nervous. There's 2 combinations on course that I was not keen on at all. And he just flew round, not a problem with the height or the time. We went clear inside the time, and he was fabulous. He jumped into the water. He jumped all the skinnies and he jumped all the combinations on the correct stride, and we did all the direct routes. This combination I was quite nervous for. It was catching quite a lot of young horses out, but Ruff just flew through it, not a problem at all. I was so proud of him. Sadly, I didn't do any videos after the cross country. I was on a bit of a high, so that is the end of the video, but thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next.